All right, good morning, everybody. Welcome back. It's Fast Cars, Fast Money. We're returning from the Olympic break. We have cars on track tonight. We've got a NASCAR DFS slate to break down. So it feels so good to be back. Hopefully, everyone enjoyed the break. I've just been recovering from my surgery, so it's been kind of a good time to take some time off. So, as always, welcome back. How can you help us? You can like, comment, share, retweet our content. It allows us to reach more people. Subscribing to the channel also is greatly appreciated. Slowly but surely, we're trying to get closer to 1,000. If you want access to the spreadsheet, want to ask us any lineup questions, go over on X. It's at FastCarsFM. Then finally, hey, if you had a good day, you just want to say thanks, show your appreciation. There's a couple of links there in the support tab, to send tips or anything. So like I said, NASCAR's back. Super excited, pumped for the race tonight. We do have a 400 lap race. So with that being said, Dominator points are going to be more of a priority for us than place differential. I'd rather be aggressive and chase those Dominator points, at least 2 Dominators in my line, maybe even potentially 3. Those laps off are going to click off very quickly, and it's going to be a very high scoring slate tonight. So if you aren't getting those Dominators in your line, chances of you cashing are going to be difficult. Now, Richmond has really turned into more of a tire strategy race as of late, as the surface just continues to age. This place just eats tires. If you watched the truck race at all last night, you can see the advantage that fresh tires has. And NASCAR is trying to get creative and make the racing on these short tracks better. So one way that they are trying to do that, and they're testing it out this weekend, is they are introducing a hard and soft tire option, and prime tires they're called, for the teams to run. I think, forget the different sets. I think they have 9 sets of hards, 3 sets of softs, but obviously the soft tires, you're going to be able to run faster, but they're going to fall off more quickly versus the hard tires. You can't run as fast, but the durability should be there. You should be able to run better on a long run. So it'll be just interesting to watch from a fan perspective, what that means for the race for DFS purposes. Can't really predict, who's going to be on the soft tires or how it's going to play out. So I'm not really looking at that too much. And because of that, the practice data is pretty deceiving. A lot of those times in there aren't really relevant or telling the full story, I would imagine, with how these teams are going to run. So for me, I'm really just looking at how have these teams been running on the short tracks, mainly in 2024, but really just in the next gen era. So that gets us to the driver by driver breakdown. You got Hamlin, Larson, Bell, and Truex up top. I like all these guys. If I had to pick, though, I'm going to lean, like we said with the race preview initial thoughts, I'm going to lean on the Dominator points over the place differential. So when I see Hamlin, when I see Bell, and I see Truex, those are the Dominator plays in my eyes. I see a lot of Dominator, lap leading, fast lap getting upside. Not that I'm saying Kyle Larson can't do that. It's just going to be more difficult for Larson. And we've seen Hamlin, Bell, and Truex been able to do that at Richmond. They've been really good on the short flat track. So um, I'm going to prioritize Hamlin, Bell, and Truex over Larson. Maybe you just grab one of those and you pair them with Larson. But for me, I'm going to have more ownership to Hamlin, Bell, and Truex because of that lap leading upside. So Hamlin's been really good on short tracks. He's good at Richmond. He has the best average finish, running position, driver rating over the next gen races at Richmond. He starts on the pole. There's a lot to like with Denny Hamlin. Just know he's going to carry a lot of ownership, but for good reason. Larson's been good too. Like I said, he just doesn't. His path to leading laps and being a dominator is just a little bit more difficult. Bell has been really strong on short tracks in the next gen era. Might not get the same level of ownership that Truex and Hamlin do, so that's a little bit of an advantage just because he doesn't, he's not starting on the front row. And if you look at historical data, Hamlin and Truex are really going to jump out. But I'm throwing him in there. I think he's the top option. He's been really strong. There's a lot to like with Christopher Bell. And then you got Truex. Truex just has a phenomenal track history here. I think he has the most amount of Dominator points. If you look at Richmond, was really, really good here in the spring. Starts on the front row for whatever reason. If Hamlin can't hold the lead, most likely it's going to be Truex taking advantage of the early part of this race. I think you can play two of these guys together, you can probably play all three of them together. It really just depends on who you feel, the most confident in. With 400 laps, you really want to get those dominators in your lines, and those are the three drivers I feel the highest, most strongly about leading. So I'm going to have a good chunk of ownership. I'm going to be mixing and matching those three plays quite a bit with my lines tonight. Ryan Blaney historically has not been, Richmond historically has not been a good track for him. It's a little expensive, so I'm really just not getting there. Keselowski's pretty expensive as well, more of a place differential option. So maybe if you're only grabbing one of those three, lap leaders that we talked about up top, or maybe two of them, maybe you compare them with Brad Keselowski. Keselowski's really, really good at tire management, pretty good on the short flat tracks, has really good data at Richmond as well. He's just a little expensive. There's some other cheaper place differential options. Now, William Byron has kind of fallen off a little bit as of late, just hasn't been running as well. His price reflects that. We haven't seen him up front contending, leading laps, dominating races like we did earlier in the season. Starting 13th, I think he's a little bit more of a tournament option. I would rather pay down for Chase Elliott because of his lap leading potential. Elliott's been really strong on short tracks. He ranks near the top in driver rating and speed if you look at the short tracks in 2024. Historically, he hasn't been as strong as Hamlin, Truex, and Bell at Richmond specifically, but he starts up front, has shown good speed all year long, has lap leading, fast lap dominating upside. So because of that, I really like Elliott. I'm going to have a good chunk of ownership to Elliott today. Logano's a little bit more of a tournament option, historically pretty good on the short flat tracks. He has an average finish of 7th here over the next gen era, which is a 5-race sample size if you look at Richmond, which is pretty good. Starting 9th, being able to move forward, finish in the top 5, probably clock up some fast laps, maybe even get some laps led over that time. He's going to be a pretty strong option. So I like him a lot for tournaments. I don't know how much ownership he's going to get. Now, Buscher is similar to Logano. His numbers aren't quite as strong. He does have a win here recently, but starting 7th is just kind of a tough ask for him. Reddick usually isn't too good on the short flat track, so starting 10th, I just don't see a lot of upside there. Bowman and Gibbs are kind of in the same boat. I think they can run around where they start. I would prefer Bowman over Gibbs for that reason, just because I think he gives you a little bit more safety. But my fear is all these drivers, start 14th, finish 15th, start 17th, finish 16th or something like that. Like it'll be okay, but for DFS wise, that's not really going to do it for you. And Kyle Busch, just been an awful season. RCR has not been good on the short flat tracks. Now they do have speed this weekend. Both him and Austin Dillon both practiced and qualified really well, which is encouraging, but still, if you're just looking at the historical data, there's a lot to go against, playing the RCR cars on the short flat tracks. Chastain offers some solid PD upside. He's a lot cheaper than Brad Keselowski as a place differential option with, maybe not as much upside as Keselowski, but you're also getting quite a price, almost $2,000 price discount, with playing Chastain. So it just opens up your line a lot more. Now, Josh Berry is kind of that contrarian lap leader. We've seen him lead laps. We've seen him run well and, stay inside the top 5, top 10 on the short flat tracks. And he's pretty cheap. So, if you do take a risk on Berry or maybe pair him with one of those JGR, juggernauts up top, really opens up your line. So I don't mind Berry for tournaments. Wallace, I'm just not getting to. I think he falls back kind of in the same boat as Gibbs and Bowman there. And, he starts a little bit further forward. Cindric starts 18th, but he usually finishes in the 20s. McDowell usually finishes around 20th, so he's not a bad option as a place differential option. He's pretty cheap too. So again, you're not getting the same type of upside with Brad Keselowski, but you get significant price savings with McDowell. They start right next to each other. It's very easy and doable to see McDowell getting like an 18th, place finish, and for $7,100, that'll work out. Driver I'm going to be overweight today on is going to be Chase Briscoe. A little bit of a risk, maybe potentially. I don't know how much people are going to be talking about him or playing him, but relatively he's been pretty strong on the short tracks. He has 4 top 20 finishes here in the next gen era. If we look at his finishes here, he's finished 18th, 11th, 12th, 23rd, and 11th. So if he's able to just continue that type of average finish, it looks pretty good. And again, I don't know how much upside he's going to get. He's pretty cheap, really easy to fit into lines. Suarez starts around where I think he's going to finish. Gregson, I wish he started a little bit further back, just kind of a tough starting spot there. Gillen gives you a little bit of place differential upside, and he's been running really well as of late, kind of making a late season push to get into the playoffs. He's still going to need to win to get in, but he has 12 top 20 finishes in his last 14 races. So, momentum's there, and if he's able to continue that trend, top 20 finish seems pretty doable and very likely today. Hocevar, again, starts 20th, most likely finishes there. Jones looks like a solid GPP play for us. Practice times weren't great, but again, we're not really relying too much on practice. And starting 27th, he gives you some place differential upside. Justin Haley basically starts DFL. We've seen him have kind of a career year with RCR. Been running well. He has top 20 finishing upside. Starting this deep, most likely he's going to get trapped a lap down, but depending on how long the initial run is, I would imagine a lot of cars are going to get trapped a lap down. So that doesn't really concern me too much. Austin Dillon, maybe if you're getting crazy aggressive, like if he starts 6th and finishes 10th or 12th, it's actually not a terrible day, especially if he's able to get you some fast laps. But man, if he starts dropping out, outside of the 15th, 16th, 18th place position, that's going to be a really tough day for him. And RCR historically has just not been getting on the short flat tracks, even though they showed up with good speed. And then after that, once you get really past Dillon, it's really, Stenhouse, Priest, Nemechek, Hemrick, those would be the guys I lean on just because of either the place differential upside that they offer or, what we've seen them be able to do. Like Brian Priest has been pretty good, relatively speaking, on the short flat tracks. He starts, further forward than Stenhouse and Nemechek, but I think Priest has better finishing potential. Zane Smith, a little bit of a tournament play. He's been running better as of late. Hemrick's pretty cheap. Hemrick every once in a while puts together solid finishes. So, once you get down to this 5K range, I don't necessarily know if you have to go this low when you're building, but if you are, there isn't one driver I feel really strong about. I usually just try to mix and match a lot of these punt plays, with my dominator options. So for me, it's really built around those JGR trios of Hamlin, Bell, and Truex. I like Elliott a lot today as a lap leader. I'm going to be overweight on Briscoe, trying to get some place differential options, maybe like Keselowski, Chastain, McDowell, Gilliland, Jones, Haley. Like those are not the core plays by any means, but those are a lot of the plays that I'm incorporating into my lines and I'm, mixing and matching different combinations of them. So super excited to have NASCAR back. Hopefully you guys are as well. Thank you guys for tuning back in, sticking with us, sticking with the channel. Enjoy the race tonight, and we will catch you next weekend.